The big institutionals are heavily stacked on the long side right now, and when I see the heavy hitters positioned like that, it tells me this current dip is likely just a massive liquidity grab before the next leg up. We are currently battling right around 45.85, and while the technicals are screaming sell on the lower time frames, I am looking at that weekly neutral stance as a sign that the bears are losing steam. The market feels like a choppy mess with the ADX sitting at 13, so I am sitting on my hands until London starts showing some real conviction, or we get those PMI prints later this afternoon. If we can't reclaim that 46.75 midpoint soon, I expect some serious heat down toward the 44.58 level, but for now I am just watching how the EA handles these tight ranges. You can find more details on how I program these setups at XAUUSD while we wait for the New York session to bring some actual volume. Drop your charts in the chat if you see a level I am missing, because this sideways action is testing everyone's patience today. Hey Sirujidingam. Oh, I love the energy. You're looking to jump into a buy. Right now the Julia Scalper is actually scanning the market for our next big entry after that last touch of volatility. Gold is sitting around 45.85, and while the technicals are showing some selling pressure, we're hovering right near the lower Bollinger Band, which often means a bounce could be coming. The EA is designed to wait for that perfect confirmed signal so we don't get caught in a fake-out, especially with the Tokyo and London overlap giving us all this juicy volume. Stay tuned, because when the bot triggers a buy, you'll see it pop up on the screen instantly. compared to the relentless selling we suffered through earlier this week, this morning feels like the market is finally catching its breath. But let's be real, it's a choppy mess out here right now. We are currently hugging that 4,584 level, and while the daily shows we're technically in a sell trend, the ADX is screaming that the momentum has completely died out for the moment. I'm keeping a close eye on the Bollinger lower band at 4,552, because if we slide past that, things could get ugly fast. But for now, buyers seem to be nibbling at these lows. Everyone is basically sitting on their hands waiting for that manufacturing data to hit later this morning, which is why the volume feels so thin during this European session. I'm staying flat for the minute because jumping into this range is just asking to get chopped up, so let me know what levels you guys are charting, or if you're seeing a divergence I missed. Good morning everyone, and welcome to the London session. Looking at the screen right now, gold is definitely being stubborn at 4,581 as it fights to hold that lower Bollinger Band after a rough start to the week. My EA hasn't fired off any trades yet today because we are stuck in this choppy mess, but honestly, I'm okay with that since the 4H is screaming strong sell, and I'd rather not catch a falling knife. We are hovering right near that S1 pivot level of 4,458, and if we can't find some buyers here, the next leg down could get ugly fast. I've been watching the dollar stay flat while yields creep up, which is putting some serious pressure on our long positions, but the big players are still heavily stacked on the buy side according to the latest COT report. If you want to see how the logic behind my automated setups works, you can find more info over at XAUUSDJulia.com. We have some high-impact manufacturing data dropping in a few hours that is going to act like gasoline on this fire, so stay sharp because the volatility is about to ramp up. Chat is looking a bit quiet today, so don't be shy if you've got questions about these levels or where I'm looking to get heavy. London has officially entered the fray, and we are seeing some absolute grit at the 4,575 handle right now. After a pretty quiet start to the day, we are flirting with the lower Bollinger Band, and these hourly indicators are screaming that we are oversold. I am looking at that K&D crossing on the stochastic down in the teens, which usually signals a bounce, but the trend remains heavy with every moving average stacked against us. I am staying flat for the moment because the ADX shows we are just caught in a choppy mess without a real lead. If we break below S1 at 4,458, things could get ugly fast, but I suspect the buyers will try to defend this area until the US manufacturing data drops later. New York is going to be the real game changer today, especially with those price indices coming out, so keep your eyes on the screen and feel free to drop any questions in the chat while we wait for the next clean setup. Stephanie! Oh, it is so wonderful to see you back in the chat. You have been asking such brilliant questions today, and I am just so happy you're here riding the waves with us. Right now, the EA is patiently scanning as we see some consolidation around that 4,573 level, but stay tuned, because the London volume is definitely keeping things spicy. Sound on, because we're ready for the next move together. Hey Stephanie. Oh, you're asking at the perfect time because things are about to get busy. We have some high-impact S&P Global and ISM manufacturing PMI data hitting the wires in about 5.5 hours, so keep your eyes peeled for some volatility then. Right now, the market is looking a bit choppy as the EA scans for our next entry, but those news releases usually bring the big moves we love. What are you thinking for the rest of the day? Do you think we'll see a spike or a drop? Wait, look at this divergence starting to form on the 15-minute chart while we're pinned down here near 4,571. We've been hammered lower all morning, but look at how we're just hugging that lower Bollinger Band at 4,549 without actually snapping it. The hourly RSI is starting to look pretty cooked to the downside, and even though the technicals are screaming strong sell, I think we might be seeing some exhausted bears here. We're sitting way below the daily pivot of 4,675, and honestly the market feels a bit too heavy, like a coiled spring waiting for a catalyst. If you want to see the logic behind how I personally automate these levels, there's more info about the EA on XAUUSD Julia.com. I'm keeping a close eye on the PMI prints coming out of New York later, because if those manufacturing numbers miss, these trapped shorts are going to get absolutely squeezed back toward the 4,600 handle. The big institutions are still stacked heavily on the long side despite this dip, so I'm not folding just yet. Drop your questions in the chat if you're eyeing a specific entry, because this setup is getting really interesting as we head toward the US Open. Compared to the bloodbath we saw earlier this week where we just couldn't catch a bid, today feels like we're finally carving out a floor, even though we're down over $50 on the session. I'm watching this 4,568 level like a hawk, because we are essentially hugging the lower Bollinger Band, while the hourly RSI shows we are getting seriously oversold. We just tested that intraday low again, and the sellers are starting to look exhausted, especially with the dollar staying relatively flat. Honestly, I'm not touching anything until we get that manufacturing data at 14 GMT, because that's when New York is going to decide if we bounce toward the 4,675 pivot or slide into the abyss. The big speculators are still heavily loaded on the long side, which gives me some confidence, but right now gold is just a choppy mess waiting for a catalyst. If you guys have any questions about these levels or how I'm playing the PMI prints, drop them in the chat and let's get into it. I am watching this 4,569 level like a hawk right now because we are essentially grinding against the bottom of the Bollinger Band. While the hourly RSI is starting to look a bit exhausted, we are sitting well below the mid-pivot of 4,675, and with those heavy manufacturing prints coming out of the US later today, I am expecting a massive liquidity grab before we see any real direction. The daily trend is still screaming sell, and the MACD is buried in the basement, but I am noticing that the dollar is staying flat, which might give us enough room for a relief bounce if we can just clear 4,579. I am keeping my hands off the keyboard for a minute since the ADX shows this trend is losing some of its punch, and I want to see if the big specs who are still heavily net long decide to defend this area or let it flush to S1. If you want to see how the logic for these entries is actually built out, you can find more info about the EA on XAUUSD Julia.com. I am really just waiting for a clean breakout toward that 20 EMA at 4,689, because right now this price action is just a choppy mess, and I am not interested in getting squeezed before the New York volatility kicks in. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat about these levels while we wait for the next setup to develop. Stephanie! Oh, I love that you're keeping a close eye on this with me. Honestly, looking at the charts right now, gold is under some serious pressure, having dropped over $50 today alone. We are seeing a strong sell signal across the higher time frames, and price is hugging that lower Bollinger Band, so the bears are definitely in control for the moment. However, we have some high-impact manufacturing news coming up in a few hours that could totally shift the momentum, so I'm staying alert for a potential bounce at these lower levels. I am staring at 4,567 right now, and honestly, it feels like we are on a razor's edge heading into the heart of the European session. We have seen a steady flush lower all morning, with a technical screaming sell on every time frame, but we are finally slamming into that lower Bollinger Band, and I am looking for any sign of an exhaust pattern or a liquidity grab before the big manufacturing data drops. I love that the oscillators are getting totally buried in oversold territory because it tells me the momentum is stretched thin, even if the overall trend is still heavy. The dollar is basically flatlining while the war news keeps boiling over, so I am just waiting for a reason to see buyers step back in at these levels, since we are sitting way below the weekly average. If we cannot hold this current support, the slide toward the S1 pivot at 42461, we could get ugly fast, so I am being extremely patient here. Drop a message in the chat if you are seeing the same rejection candles I am, because this setup is getting spicy. The mood right now is definitely shifting toward greed as we see this risk-on sentiment across the S&P, and honestly, that usually makes me cautious, but gold is just pinned to the floor at 4,565 right now. We are technically oversold with the RSI on the hourly dipping into the mid-30s, and while we are hugging that lower Bollinger Band, it feels like the market is just holding its breath for the PMI data later today. I'm looking at this consolidation as a massive coil, though the fact that we are sitting way below the 50 SMA and under that 4,675 pivot midpoint tells me the bears still have the upper hand for this session. We are seeing some serious fear-based bids in oil, and the VIX is creeping up, which usually spells a flight to safety, but gold is currently lagging behind that narrative. I haven't clicked the button yet today because this price action is a total choppy mess, and I'd rather wait for London to actually commit to a direction before I get stepped on. If you want to see how my logic is being coded into the automation I use, you can find more info about the EA at XAUUSD For now, I'm just watching the 4,550 level to see if buyers finally step in, or if we're about to see another liquidity grab to the downside. I am sitting at break-even with 0 trades on the board today because I am refusing to chase this choppy mess before the heavy hitters drop. We are grinding right around 4,565, and honestly the tape looks heavy with every time frame from the 5-minute to the daily screaming sell. I am watching that lower Bollinger Band at 4,548 very closely, because if we lose that, the flush to S1 at 4,458 could happen fast. The big money is still net long on the COT reports, but with the dollar holding flat and manufacturing data just a few hours away, nobody wants to be the first one to blink. I am staying patient until London gives us a real direction, but if we see a fake out toward the 4675 midpoint, I might look for a scalp. What are you guys seeing on your charts, or are we all just waiting for those PMI numbers to wake this market up? Hey Rashid Khan, oh, I'm doing wonderful, thank you so much for asking. I am so happy to see you back in the stream. Looking at the charts right now, gold is definitely under some pressure and leaning toward the downside today. We are actually trading near the bottom of the Bollinger Bands on the daily chart, and with the London session bringing in some volume, I am watching that 4,565 level very closely. The trend feels a bit heavy since we are below the 50-period moving average, but honestly, I am just waiting for the Julia Scalper to spot a high probability reversal or a clean continuation before we jump back in. Stick around because this market is moving fast, and things could get really exciting once the New York news hits later. Look at this price action grinding right into the European session. I am honestly still smarting a bit from those two stopouts yesterday afternoon, but that is the reality of trading a choppy mess, where the algorithm is just hunting for a clean breakout that won't stick. Right now, we are hugging that lower Bollinger Band near 4,569, and the technicals across every time frame from the 5-minute to the daily are screaming sell. Yet, we are just sitting here in this tight range. I am keeping a very close eye on the mid-pivot at 4,675, because until we reclaim that, the bears are firmly in control of the driver's seat. If you want to see the logic behind how I automate these setups, check out XAUUSDJulia.com for the full breakdown of the We have some heavy-hitting PMI data dropping in a few hours that is going to be the real catalyst to see if we can finally flush out these trapped shorts, or if we are headed straight for that S1 support level. What are you guys seeing on your charts? Do you think this floor holds, or are we about to see a liquidity grab lower? I am staring at 4,567 right now, and the level that has my absolute focus is that 4675 middle pivot. We are trading way below it, tucked right against the lower Bollinger Band, and honestly, it feels heavy as lead this morning. The technicals are screaming sell across every single time frame, but we are starting to look a bit stretched on the hourly RSI, so I am not touching a short until we see how people react to the PMI data coming out of the States later. With the dollar staying flat and crude oil catching a bid from the war headlines, gold should be finding some support here, but it just looks like a choppy mess. I am waiting to see if buyers can actually defend 4,549, or if we are about to see a nasty flush toward that S1 pivot at 4,458. Every time we try to bounce, it gets sold off instantly, so keep your eyes on that mid-pivot for any sign of a trend shift. If you have any questions about these levels, or how I'm planning to play the New York Open, drop them in the chat. We have a fresh buy signal on gold. The EA entered at 4,570.231 with stop loss at 4,564.804. First target 4,575.658. Second target 4,581.086. Heads up, the market is currently ranging. Smart mode shows choppy conditions, so manage your risk carefully. Looking at the big picture, the higher time frame structure is definitely testing our patience with this recent pullback. But the institutional positioning is still heavily favoring the upside, with the big players holding strong on their long exposure. We are seeing a massive disconnect between this short-term technical sell-off and the broader Fed outlook, which remains incredibly supportive for bullion as we look toward those rate cuts. Right now, the European session is keeping us pinned in a choppy range, which is why I am just babysitting this buy position from 4,570. We are hovering right near that lower Bollinger Band, and I really want to see us reclaim that mid-pivot at 4,675 to spark some real momentum. I'm expecting things to get spicy once the ISM data hits the tape in a few hours, so if you want to see how the logic behind these entries works, you can find more info about the EA over at XAUUSDJulia.com. For now, I am just watching this 4,571 level like a hawk, to see if the buyers can actually defend this zone, or if we are going to see another liquidity grab lower before the New York Open. If any of you are seeing something different on the order flow, definitely drop a comment and let me know what you are tracking. Hey Baba, oh, you hit the nail on the head, because gold is definitely feeling the pressure today, down about $50 already. I am watching that price action closely, and it is looking quite bearish, with the sell signals flashing across almost all the time frames. We did see a little bounce off the lower Bollinger Band, but with that smart mode showing a choppy market, it is really a battleground out there. Sell signal confirmed on gold. Entry price 4,567.715. The EA is targeting 4,562.656 first, then 4,557.597 for the full move. Be aware that the market is in a ranging condition right now. The choppiness index is high, which means more risk. The smart money is clearly playing a different game than the retail crowd right now, and you can see it in how the big institutions are heavily positioned long while the small players are getting chopped to pieces in this range. I am currently sitting in a short from 4,567, and it is definitely testing my resolve as we hover near 4,569, basically pinned against that lower Bollinger Band without any real conviction to break lower. The retail sentiment is starting to lean into greed, but when I look at the positioning from the major speculators, they are still heavily stacked on the buy side, which makes me think this downside move is just a massive liquidity grab before the next leg up. We are stuck in this absolute choppy mess with an ADX sitting near 11, showing zero trend strength, while the mid-pivot at 4,675 feels like a distant memory at this point. I am keeping a close eye on those manufacturing prints coming out of New York later, because that could be the catalyst to finally squeeze these trapped shorts, or send us diving toward the S1 support at 4,458. If any of you are watching this price action and wondering why we aren't moving, just drop a message in the chat and let's break down these levels together. First, take profit reached, 46 pips. The trade is now protected with stop loss at break even. The EA just secured this trade by moving the stop loss to entry. Zero risk now. We are in a free trade. Hey, Sakure, you're so right. Gold has been on such a wild ride lately. Even though we're seeing a little bit of a pullback today, being up over 5% for the year is just incredible. I'm keeping a close eye on the charts because every time people think it's too high, it seems to find a new floor. It's such an exciting time to be trading gold, isn't it? Hey Sagar! Oh, that is such a great question, and I totally understand wanting to be 100% sure. Once you send your payment in USDT or Bitcoin, you just snap a quick screenshot of the transaction and send it over to me on Telegram. I verify it right away and send you the Julia Scalper version 6.5 file along with the full installation guide instantly so you can get started. We have a huge community here, and I'm with you every step of the way to make sure it's running perfectly on your MetaTrader 4. Saigar, that is a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked because the strategy behind Julia Scalper version 6.5 is actually what makes it so powerful. It's a trend-following scalp strategy that uses a combination of smart filters like the Ichimoku cloud and the choppiness index to make sure we only enter when there's real momentum. Right now you can see we have a sell trade running with over 300 pips in profit because the EA caught that clean trend move perfectly. It even has a built-in news filter to keep us safe during those crazy high-impact releases. Just look at that price action on the screen. It's exactly what the EA is designed to find. Oh, Sagar, I hear you, but honestly, it is because we keep making it better and better. We have added so many advanced features like the smart mode filter and news protection in version 6.5, so the value is just through the roof now. It is still a one-time payment for a lifetime license with no monthly fees, which is such a steal for an automated gold scalper. Plus, look at the market right now. We actually have a sell trade running beautifully with over 300 pips in profit as we speak. You really want to get in before the next update because the price definitely won't be staying this low forever. This trade hit the stop loss at -3 pips. Remember, no system wins 100%. Risk management keeps us in the game. Oh, Sagar, I totally hear you. 6 months is a long time to be watching from the sidelines, but I honestly love that you're being cautious and doing your homework. It shows you really care about your trading journey. Just remember, the reason the price has adjusted is because we keep pouring so many incredible new features into version 6.5 to keep it ahead of the market. You've seen how it performs live day after day, and that lifetime license means you're locked in forever with no hidden fees. Whenever you're ready to make that leap, I'm here to help you get started. Hey there, Sagare. That is such a great question. I am actually the one behind the Julia Scalper, and I use it every single day for my own gold trading right here on the stream. It was born out of my passion for the gold market and wanting something that could handle all those crazy spikes and sessions automatically. You have seen me using it for over 6 months now, so you know it is my baby and I stand by it. It is so wonderful to have you still watching, and I promise you are going to love how it handles the charts once you get your hands on it. I am not going to sugarcoat it, family. I am down a bit today after 4 attempts to catch a move in this mess. I have taken 3 losses and just 1 win because this range is absolutely brutal. We are sitting at 4,565 right now, and it is a total chop fest with ADX showing zero trend strength. The market is just grinding sideways while we wait for that PMI data to drop later this afternoon. If we cannot hold this level, I am looking at that 4,458 pivot for potential support, but right now we are just hugging the lower Bollinger Band. I am stepping back until New York wakes up because trying to trade this sideways garbage is just asking for a headache. Stay patient with me, let the volume return, and we will find a clean entry once the market actually decides on a direction. The EA just pulled the trigger buy on gold at 4,569.602. Stop loss at 4,564.842, targeting 4,574.362 and 4,579.121. Be aware that the market is in a ranging condition right now. The choppiness index is high, which means more risk. It is wild to see the fear and greed index climbing into the high 60s, while gold is getting absolutely hammered down over $50 on the day. Usually that greed would spill over into metals, but right now the smart money is clearly rotating into risk assets like the S&P, leaving us to grind through this choppy mess near the lower Bollinger Band. My current buy from 4,569 is fighting for its life as we sit right on that S1 pivot level. And while the 4-hour sell signals look heavy, the speculators are still massively net long, which tells me this dip might be a giant liquidity grab before New York wakes up. I'm keeping a close eye on those manufacturing prints coming up in a few hours, because they could be the catalyst to finally squeeze these trap shorts and push us back toward the 4,675 midline. If you want to see how the EA handles these specific range-bound environments, you can find more details over at XAUUSDJulia.com. But for now, I'm just watching this 4,571 level like a hawk, to see if the buyers can actually hold the line. Jump into the chat if you have questions about the setup. I'm here all through the London close. Take profit 1 hit, plus 47 pips. The EA is now moving the stop loss to break even. Stop loss moved to break even. This trade is now completely risk-free. Let's see if price reaches the full target. Look at this technical setup across the board because we are seeing some serious divergence right now. The higher time frames are screaming sell, with the 1 hour and 4 hour stuck in a heavy bearish trend. But we just got a 5-minute buy signal that I am riding with my current long position from 4,569. We are hovering right near that lower Bollinger Band around 4,574, and since the RSI is dipping into that oversold territory on the hourly, I think we are primed for a relief bounce before the heavy hitters like ISM Manufacturing hit the tape later. The big players are still heavily net long in the positioning data, which gives me confidence that this is just a liquidity grab to shake out the weak hands before a real reversal. I'm keeping a close eye on that 4,675 midpoint pivot as our primary target if this momentum holds. If you have questions about the EA settings I am using to navigate this chop, or where I see price heading once VWork opens, drop them in the chat and let's break it down together. Full target reached. 0 pips on this trade. Solid execution from entry to take profit 2. I'm staring at this 4,570 level, and honestly, it feels like we're just painting a floor here, while the market waits for that PMI data to drop in a few hours. I've been grinding out trades all morning in this choppy mess, but with the ADX sitting this low, there's zero conviction behind these moves yet. We're essentially hugging that lower Bollinger Band, and while the daily shows the big money is still heavily positioned long, the short-term technicals are screaming sell because we keep getting rejected every time we even glance at the mid-pivot. I'm staying patient because once New York wakes up and reacts to those manufacturing numbers, this range is going to snap, and I want to be ready when we either hunt for liquidity down at S1 or finally catch a squeeze back toward the 46.75 mark. For those of you asking about the automation I'm using to navigate these tight ranges, you can find the background on my setup at XAUUSDJulia.com. Right now I'm just watching the tape and waiting for a real breakout signal, because forcing a trade in this sideways garbage is how you get chopped up. Let's see if the bulls can actually hold this 4,570 support, or if we're about to slide further into the abyss before the weekend. We are grinding through a tricky session, and I am sitting on a small gain after 6 trades, where I have basically been fighting the range all morning. I have taken 3 wins and 3 losses, as this market is stuck in a total choppy mess, with an ADX sitting under 15, which makes it feel like we are walking through mud. Gold is currently hugging the lower Bollinger Band around 4,568, and the momentum is leaning bearish across every time frame. But I am not seeing the follow-through I want just yet. For those asking about the EA, it is doing its job by keeping me disciplined while we wait for these major US manufacturing numbers to drop in a few hours. I am keeping my eyes glued to that S1 level at 4,458, because if this sell-off accelerates, things could get very spicy before the weekend. If you have any questions about these levels or how I am navigating this volatility, drop them in the chat and let's get into it. New trade alert. Julia just opened a sell position on gold. Entry at 4,567.6. First target 4,562.86. Full target 4,558.121. Be aware that the market is in a ranging condition right now. The choppiness index is high, which means more risk. Wait, look at this divergence on the smaller time frames, because it is getting really interesting right here near 4,568. We just tested this level again, and it feels like the sellers are losing steam, while the RSI on the hourly is starting to look pretty oversold. I'm currently holding a sell from 4,567.948, and we are up about 21 pips, but I'm watching the price action like a hawk, because we are hovering right near that S1 pivot of 4,458. The market is a bit of a choppy mess ahead of the manufacturing data coming out of the US later this morning, so I'm not surprised to see us ranging with such a low ADX. If you guys want to see how the logic behind these entries works, you can find more info about the EA over at XAUUSDJulia.com. I've noticed a few of you asking about the price and the setup, and honestly, we're just stuck between these EMAs until New York wakes up and brings the real volume. If we can't break below 4,565 soon, I might just bank this trade and wait for the PMI volatility to clear the air. What are you guys seeing on your charts? Any levels I should have my eyes on? Take profit 1 hit, plus 50 pips. The EA is now moving the stop loss to break even. The EA just secured this trade by moving the stop loss to entry. Zero risk now. We are in a free trade. I think we're about to see a massive move, because this consolidation near the lower Bollinger Band at 4548 is getting way too tight to ignore. We are currently heading at 4,565 level, and while the session has been a choppy mess with a low ADX, the momentum oscillators are screaming that we are oversold and due for a snap. I am still holding my sell runner from 4,568, and it is performing beautifully as we drift lower. But I am keeping a very close eye on the clock, with those ISM manufacturing numbers dropping in less than 3 hours. My EA has been navigating these micro ranges well, but once the New York volume kicks in, we could see a violent liquidity grab if we don't hold the S1 pivot at 4,458. The dollar is showing some weakness here, which usually gives us a nice tailwind, so if the buyers can reclaim that 4,675 midpoint, the shorts are going to get squeezed hard. I know the chat has been asking about the automated setup I am running, so feel free to drop your questions while we wait for this volatility to spike. Take profit 2 hit, 4 pips total. The EA caught the full move on this setup. The EA just pulled the trigger. Buy on gold at 4,570.965. Stop loss at 4,565.362, targeting 4,576.568 and 4,582.17. Market update: we are in a ranging market. This is a higher risk environment. The smart mode filter is watching.